When I returned from my trip, I found that my house had burned down. Although David, who was on the second floor, was rescued, he suffered severe burns all over his body. At the hospital that rushed to help, David was wrapped in bandages from head to toe, lying in bed. As I was crying, Linda lashed out at me with harsh words.
Kathy, didn't you just shout a good job in your heart? You can rebuild the house with insurance, and you're safe, aren't you?
I couldn't believe my ears.
After all, everyone else's houses are stylish, and ours was just an old shabby house. I always thought it was embarrassing. See, it's good that it burned down, right?
Linda's laughter echoed through the hospital room filled with the smell of disinfectant. I glared at Linda's smug profile with anger. I knew you set the fire. I'll never forgive you. Just watch, I'll make you regret this. I'm Kathy, a 63-year-old housewife. While managing the accounting for the small-town factory left by my husband, I'm keeping busy and fulfilled. My son, David, lives in a rental apartment in the same city with his wife Linda and their daughter Sophie, and they visit me during the holidays and vacations. My daughter-in-law Linda is kind and often looks out for me, especially since I lost my husband last year. David, who defied his father's wishes to take over the factory and left home after graduating high school, seemed to have been hopping from one part-time job to another even after turning 20. Linda, who met David while working at a restaurant, did not blame him for being a temp worker and kept a warm eye on him. When they decided to marry, I was filled with gratitude, thanking her for marrying my unsuccessful son. Sophie is a beauty, much like her mother, and is quite the responsible one despite being only 9 years old. She visits occasionally when I'm off work, and we spend delightful times baking sweets and chatting. I thought I'd keep things cordially tense with my son's family. Just as I thought this, David, who rarely calls, suggested they move in.
Must be lonely by yourself, right? Why not live with us?
I appreciate the offer, but I'm not interested in living together.
No need to be tough. Having us and Sophie around would distract you from loneliness, wouldn't it?
I'm not lonely at all.
So, we're moving next month.
I said I'm not interested in living together. Despite my refusal, the following month my son's family moved in. Well, living with my adorable granddaughter and kind daughter-in-law isn't so bad. That was how I felt until I was shocked by Linda's true nature. I'm home. As I opened the front door, there stood Linda, commanding the entranceway again today. She thrust a speck of dust she picked up with her fingertips at me and scolded me in a shrill voice.
There was dust in the corner of the stairs.
I rushed cleaning before going to work, so I must have left some dirt.
Then you should wake up earlier. I can't invite mom friends over to such a shabby, dirty house.
That ticked me off. If she's a stay-at-home mom, she should clean it herself. Besides, while the house is a 30-year-old 2-story wooden building, it was renovated inside just 5 years ago, so there's nothing inconvenient about living here. Linda, I work, and even preparing meals for 4 is hard enough. As we agreed when moving in, I need help with the cleaning and laundry. Linda's eyes narrowed at my words.
What? This is your house, Kathy. It's only natural that you do everything. Don't blame me because you can't cope.
I lost the will to argue and fell silent. I thought she was a gentle and lovely young woman, but she was completely pretending. The next day, as I was about to open my home gate, I felt a strong gaze on my back. Turning around, I saw Julia, my neighbor, staring intently at me while hanging an eco bag. I greeted her, and Julia frowned.
People aren't always what they seem.
Hop.
I never thought you'd be the type to mistreat your daughter-in-law.
Julia spoke with a tone of sympathy, blinking at me.
Linda was in tears when she told me. She said you don't feed her properly, and that she gets yelled at if she doesn't keep the house spotless, and that it's shameful for a daughter-in-law to work, so you've stopped her from working.
I never said any of that. Julia looked at me suspiciously.
I believe you, Kathy, but squashing rumors is tough. It's even reached the Homeowners Association president.
That explains why neighbors have been acting weird lately. Quickly walking away when we lock eyes or suddenly disbanding their conversations when I approach. It must be Julia, the gossip, who's been spreading these tales for fun. As I watched her leave, I entered my house feeling down. We had agreed to split the utility bills and groceries equally between our households. Despite agreeing on this before moving in together, 6 months into cohabitation, my son and his wife still refused to contribute to the living expenses. Even after I requested Linda to pay on my son's payday, she always found an excuse to delay. Linda, I sent you a breakdown of the living expenses a week ago on your cell, didn't I?
Oh, I forgot to withdraw the money. I'll pay later, just cover for me now.
She replied nonchalantly, but the next month arrived without any payment from her. After 6 months of this, I finally confronted my son. I've been covering for you guys for half a year now. David, are you even giving Linda the money?
Quit nagging. I said I'd pay, so I'll pay. We're rich, so stop being petty, he snapped back.
In a rare moment of boldness, I retorted. Sure, we have your dad's inheritance, and I'm still working, so I could manage without your contributions. But we agreed on this, David. If you can't pay, Linda should at least explain why.
What an egg you are.
What did you say?
I'm home.
Sophie's voice interrupted us as she returned from tutoring. David greeted her with welcome back and went off to shower, temporarily halting our argument. But the problems didn't end there. Soon after moving in, Linda began dressing up extravagantly on weekend nights and going out, telling Sophie and me to keep it a secret from David. David would go out drinking with colleagues until late. It seems she thought she wouldn't get caught if she returned home before her husband did. Honestly, if they have money for that, they should just pay their living expenses. One evening after Linda had left, I was peeling potatoes in a gloomy mood when Sophie, washing potatoes beside me, muttered,
Mom doesn't plan to pay for the utilities or groceries.
I stopped peeling and looked at her. You heard your dad and me talking the other day.
Yeah, I could hear it all the way to the parking lot.
Sophie spoke calmly.
Before we moved, Mom and Dad talked about it. Now that their annoying grandpa is gone, they plan to push into Grandma's house. If they live together, they save on rent, and if Grandma cooks and pays for utilities, they can live comfortably and spend the leftover money however they like.
What? They plan to make me pay for everything from the start. Anger welled up inside me. Did they think of me as some kind of ATM with maid service?
And you know, Mom can't really do housework. When we were in the apartment, all we had was snack bread and ready-made meals, and she hardly ever cleaned. The only thing she did was laundry. So, Grandma, you shouldn't expect too much.
I understand, Sophie, thanks for letting me know. I replied with a forced smile, resuming my potato peeling. It's sad to hear such things from her daughter. I even felt a bit of sympathy for Linda. On Friday evening, unusually cheerful, Linda struck up a conversation.
Kathy, do you have any plans for this Saturday?
I quickly fought back. Last month, when I answered her honestly, she immediately got angry.
A trip to Boston? If you can afford that, why not give Sophie some pocket money? You're really thoughtless.
I was upset, as she was the last person I wanted to hear that from, given she doesn't pay for anything. So this time, I decided to hide the truth. I'm just planning to relax at home.
Oh, is that so? If you go out, please let me know. We have plans too.
Plans? A twinge of anxiety hit me. Maybe I'll just mention the trip afterwards. After Linda left, Sophie came over with a burst of smiles.
This Saturday, Mom and Dad are taking me shopping for clothes. We're going to the mall. It's been so long, I'm really looking forward to it.
Her innocent smile was contagious. That's great. I hope you find some cute clothes.
Yeah. I'll show you what I buy, Grandma.
I felt relieved. I had been worried about Sophie, who is usually neglected by her parents yet is so responsible, lacking childlike fun. Her excitement about shopping with her parents was truly heartwarming. Then came Saturday. After my son's family left, I too headed out. It was a day trip to a seaside spa. A delightful lunch full of seafood at a beautiful hotel, and a relaxing soak in an outdoor bath overlooking the sparkling ocean seemed to wash away all my accumulated stress. Stepping off the train, I walked home with a light step. As I neared my house, I noticed a crowd of people. Beyond them, police cars and fire trucks were parked, and yellow tape was strung up with several firefighters and police officers standing around. I smelled smoke and realized there had been a fire nearby. I hope everyone in the house was okay. As I walked on, lost in thought, Julia stopped me with a surprised look.
Kathy, weren't you at home?
I was on a trip.
Then it must have been David who was taken away in the ambulance.
What? David went shopping.
He came back to get something and got caught in the fire. They're saying it was arson.
My heart skipped a beat. Pushing through the crowd, I introduced myself to a firefighter who then escorted me to the front of my house. I was at a loss for words at the sight before me. The two-story house with great architecture that stood just this morning was nowhere to be found. All that was left were charred pillars, soot-stained walls, and remnants of what used to be furniture. I knelt on the sidewalk, staring blankly at what used to be my home. A police officer, seeing me in a daze, cautiously approached.
Kathy, I heard you were on a trip?
Yes.
We'll need to talk more about this tomorrow. Can you give me your contact information?
I gave them my cell number as asked.
Your son was caught in the fire, but fortunately, he is conscious. Are you aware of which hospital he's at?
No, please tell me. The fire had not spread to the garage, so the car was safe. As I looked up directions to the hospital on my cell phone, I received a call from Linda.
I heard you were severely injured in the fire. Kathy, are you okay?
I was on a trip though. Silence followed on the other end of the line.
You were at home all day today, right?
I suddenly decided to go to the hot springs. It was David who was taken away. Julia must have mistaken him for me because our hairstyles and hair colors are similar.
We were supposed to meet at 4 in front of the station, and I thought he wasn't coming back, but he was at home, that idiot. Did he get the day wrong?
What?
Never mind. Which hospital is it? I'll bring Sophie along.
Her tone, seemingly unconcerned for her husband, felt off to me. Even if we usually don't get along, he's still my important son. I rushed to the hospital, explained the situation at the reception, and hurried to the ward. Seeing David lying on the bed, tears spilled from my eyes. Being caught in a fire must have been hot and painful. His body was wrapped in bandages, looking almost like a mummy. After a while, a doctor appeared and explained his condition and the treatment going forward. David had severe burns all over his body, but was not in life-threatening condition. He would need a skin graft using his own skin, and would have to stay in the hospital for about 6 months. Soon, Linda and Sophie arrived. Sophie quickly filled with tears and choked on her words, "Daddy." She knelt by the bed and sobbed quietly next to Linda, who glared down at David with a fierce look. Suddenly turning to me across the bed, Linda snapped,
I stressed that you should let us know if your plans change. Why did you go out on a whim?
"Do I need your permission to go out now?"
Originally, it was supposed to be you in that bed with severe burns, not David. Don't you feel bad for him?
I couldn't accept being blamed like this. Then Linda flashed a spiteful smile.
Kathy, didn't you just shout a good job in your heart? Once the insurance comes through, you can rebuild the house, and you've escaped any trouble. Anyway, it must feel good to have that old shack gone, right?
I couldn't believe my ears. The house, filled with memories of my late husband, had been left to just pillars and walls after burning down when I returned. Could she not imagine how shocking this was for me? Taken aback, Linda continued to blabber.
Everyone else's houses are stylish, and ours was just an old rundown house. I always thought it looked disgraceful. See, it really was better that it burned down, right?
Mom, why would you say something so awful?
Oh, it's just the truth. Sophie, it was smart to move our things to the hotel. We're really lucky.
Linda's loud laughter echoed through the hospital room, filled with the smell of disinfectant. Unable to argue in the hospital, I clenched my fists and gritted my teeth to hold back my anger. Then David, who appeared to be sleeping, groaned. Yes, even though he was wrapped in bandages all over, David was conscious. He slightly moved his mouth and said in a low voice,
Linda.
What?
Linda bent down to hear David's whisper. His whisper changed her expression.
Okay, I understand. Leave it to me.
Linda then turned to Sophie and me, suggesting it was time to leave. As I walked out of the hospital room and down the hallway, I pondered what might have been discussed between David and Linda. What exactly David and Linda discussed remains a mystery, but I caught only a few words. Ruins and gold. In truth, I inherited gold bars as part of my husband's estate. They are stored in a bank safe deposit box, but I have not disclosed their exact location to David. Believing the gold was in our home safe, David must have slipped away during shopping to break into our house while I was gone. Being unaware to that, could it be Linda, who took a different course of action from Sophie after all, who started the fire? From the shopping mall to our house is a 15-minute drive. If Linda had set a time to meet with Sophie and taken separate actions, it would have been possible for her to start the fire. Linda's slip of the tongue about mixing up the execution day and how excited she appeared, mistakenly thinking I was involved in the fire and calling me. Judging by her further outburst of anger towards me at the hospital, there's no doubt to assume I was the intended target. David is the beneficiary of my insurance. Even if I had only suffered severe burns, a substantial sum in disability benefits would be deposited into David's account. As I felt dizzy from the shock and my body burned with anger, it became clear. Linda set our house on fire aiming for the insurance money, even injuring David in the process, all while maintaining her composure. Moreover, using shopping with Sophie as a cover for her crime shows a complete lack of maternal instinct. Seeing Sophie's downtrodden expression and slow walk, my heart ached. The joy of their shopping trip had been utterly destroyed. I glared at Linda, filled with anger. I knew she was the one who had set the fire. I will never forgive her. Just you wait, I'll make you regret this soon. Considering how carefully Linda had moved her belongings to the hotel beforehand, it's clear she's the arsonist. The situation makes my blood boil, but I'll leave the evidence gathering to the police. First, I need to find temporary housing. Before I could call, the president of my husband's factory called to check on us. When I explained the situation, he immediately arranged for 3 weeks of paid leave and started the process for me to move into company housing. I reached out to Linda, but she said she'd stay at the hotel with Sophie, so I ended up moving into the company housing alone, pulling my suitcase behind me. After contacting the insurance company, I stopped at a big supermarket on the way back from the hospital to buy ready meals, underwear, and bedding. When I got home, I postponed unpacking, heated up the meal in the microwave, and ate. As soon as I felt full, the tension broke, and exhaustion overwhelmed me. Grateful for the furnished room, I arranged the bedding and lay down. Without even changing, I fell asleep immediately. The next day was consumed with shopping. Since everything was destroyed in the fire, I had to buy kitchenware, clothes, and more. Fortunately, I still had my driver's license, cell phone, wallet, and credit cards. While eating ice cream at the food court in the shopping mall, the words I had overheard from David and Linda's conversation the day before came back to me. On my way back to company housing, I stopped by the remains of the house and saw Linda digging through the ashes while on the phone.
David, there's no safe here. The gold bars are supposed to be in there, right? Oh, it's time for Sophie's piano lesson. Yes, I can come in 4 days. I'll search again then.
Hidden behind the neighboring fence, I listened to her conversation and was certain. They were indeed searching for the gold bars. They planned to take them without telling me. Well then, I'll make sure their welcome is quite grand. Smirking, I left the scene. 4 days later, when Linda arrived at the ruins, she encountered a group of neighborhood women whispering together.
Hello, Julia, Barbara, and Amy.
As she greeted them with a sweet voice, the group turned and grimaced at her. Julia, still frowning, spoke up.
There was a rumor that you set the fire the other day.
What?
We were all deceived by your quiet appearance. It seems you're not who you appear to be, planning to burn down the house and collect the insurance money on your husband, weren't you?
How scary. You knew David was there, and still you set the fire.
What are the police doing? They shouldn't let criminals roam free. They should lock you up quickly.
Surrounded by glaring faces, Linda was flustered. Thanks to her usual charm and playing the poor daughter-in-law tormented by her Kathy, she had won over the residents, but now they had turned against her.
I wasn't trying to kill David.
Her voice faded away, and from my hiding spot, I added, "Oh yeah, absolutely not.
Kathy.
Your real target was me, wasn't it? You set the fire thinking I was home." Linda froze. But soon, she forced a stiff smile.
I don't understand what you mean.
The safe, I moved it to the company housing on the day of the fire. I revealed, and Linda's face lit up. Are you coming now?
Sure, I will.
She replied, her voice filled with excitement, while I just gave a thin smile. When we arrived at the company housing, Linda's demeanor shifted dramatically from her earlier aggressive stance to one of earnestly apologizing to me.
Kathy, I'm sorry. Actually, David told me on his sickbed to find the gold bars. He said they could be sold for money, so he planned to steal them amidst the confusion of the fire. That's why I was lurking around the ruins. But I didn't commit arson.
Is this what you were looking for? I said, pulling out a silver dial safe from the back of the room, and Linda's eyes sparkled. She watched intently as I opened the safe, swallowing hard. But what appeared were bundles of old letters. These are letters my husband gave me before we were married. It was a good idea to keep them in the safe.
Tisk, just trash. So where are the gold bars?
They're in a bank safe deposit box. Guess you'll need to hire a thief.
What a waste of time. I'm leaving,
she said, starting to stand up, so I told her gently. Don't be in such a hurry, stay a little longer, the main event is about to start.
What do you mean by main event?
In front of a visibly annoyed Linda, I flipped a large brown envelope upside down. Countless photos spilled onto the living room table. Linda let out a small scream and covered her mouth. Understandably, since the photos showed her enjoying the nightlife. There she was, arm in arm with a host, happily walking through the night district and entering a host club with several high-end shopping bags. Speaking of which, Linda, I heard you were quite the troublemaker back home.
Did you have all that investigated?
Our company's second factory is in your hometown. You used to get into all sorts of trouble, breaking signs in the shopping district, smashing windows of stores and factories.
That's ancient history. I've forgotten all about it.
Linda retorted, defiantly lifting her chin. Oh, really? But these are recent, aren't they? I pointed out, lining up a few photos and tilting my head. Strange, isn't it? You're a stay-at-home mom. Where do you get the money for these night outs? Could it be from David's card? Linda then looked desperate and pleaded with me.
Please, don't tell David. If he finds out I've been using his card and even getting into debt, he'll definitely divorce me.
Oh, so that's why you set the fire, trying to burn me along with the house. How terrible. I said mockingly, and Linda's face twisted into a furious expression.
Burning you was the quickest solution. Either I get the insurance money, or, even if it fails, there's still the disability benefits. Seriously, that old house is so ugly, it makes me sick to live in it. Rebuilding it would probably make your deceased husband happy, right?
At her mocking laughter, I lost my patience. I stared directly into Linda's eyes and stated firmly, that house was rebuilt when David was born. My husband and I decided to redesign it with a spacious balcony and classic American-style rooms that suited us. A freeloader like you has no say in it. A vein popped on Linda's forehead. I'm going to the bathroom, don't leave yet. I insisted, heading toward the bathroom. As soon as I closed the bathroom door, I heard a sharp male voice.
Hey, what are you doing?
Rushing back to the living room, I found Linda being restrained by two men in suits. A bottle of pills rolled out of Linda's hand onto the floor.
Haffy's coffee was spiked with a sleep inducer. We are arresting Linda Morgan for assault with intent to harm.
Wait. Why are there detectives in the next room?
Of course, there are. I couldn't risk being alone with an arsonist. I said, shrugging. Linda glared at me with piercing eyes.
Should I take your earlier statement as a confession?
I didn't say I set the fire.
Then, let's discuss any additional crimes at the police station.
Additional crimes?
Linda looked confused. I smiled at her. Remember the mischief from your youth. At 18, you broke the window of a factory, remember?
Oh, that shabby factory?
It's our second plant. The window you broke damaged vital equipment, causing the factory to shut down for a week and incurred significant losses. I explained in detail. At the time, we couldn't pinpoint a suspect, but thanks to the detectives doing some digging in your hometown this time, we identified you as the perpetrator. Linda's expression stiffened.
That was over 10 years ago.
The statute of limitations for claiming damages is 10 years, and it's still valid until the end of this year. I informed her with a broad smile. How much do you suppose the damages and compensation will amount to? Maybe around $100,000.
$100,000. I can't pay that much.
Linda's face turned pale, and she began to tremble. The detective handcuffed her.
Linda Morgan, you are under arrest for assault.
As Linda was led away, I breathed a sigh of relief. The plan of the couple, David and Linda, unfolded just as I had imagined. They went out to the shopping mall as a family, setting separate times to meet up with Sophie, acting independently. It was unexpected for David, who first left under the pretense of going for a smoke, to go home for the gold bars. According to the plan, Linda spread kerosene on a stack of newspapers in the parking lot and set it on fire. David, who had mistakenly believed the execution date was a week later, found himself inadvertently involved. Linda, the actual arsonist, faced charges for attempted murder by arson, assault for putting a sleep inducer in my coffee, and for vandalism from 10 years ago. I wanted the money back quickly, so I settled for $50,000 in compensation and allowed Linda to reintegrate into society. Linda, burdened with a massive debt of $160,000, $10,000 for misusing David's credit card, $50,000 borrowed from the credit card company for the settlement, and $100,000 for the old vandalism, works from morning till night at our factory to pay it off monthly. She says she'll never be able to pay it off in her lifetime, apparently crying during work. David, who conspired with Linda and planned to split my insurance money, was arrested after his discharge from the hospital. I withdrew the complaint for a settlement of $50,000 and had him work at our factory. The factory environment, harsh in summer and freezing in winter, must be tough for David, who used to switch jobs whenever he felt uncomfortable. However, when I threatened him with the possibility of prison, saying, "Do you want to go to jail? I can file the charges again," he calmed down. David, furious about Linda's misuse of his credit card, but aware that divorce would incur additional living costs, continues to live with her in the factory's company housing, despite their frequent arguments. With the insurance money from the fire, I bought an apartment near Sophie's elementary school, where we both started living. David and Linda keep pestering to see Sophie, but since she says she doesn't want to meet them yet, their reunion seems to be in the distant future. The money from Linda's monthly payments for the property damage goes into the factory's funds. Sophie, though separated from her parents, shows no signs of loneliness and is happily attending school. When I'm busy, she helps by cooking meals like chicken soup or stew, or by doing the shopping. Living with my adorable granddaughter has turned out to be more comfortable than I imagined. I plan to continue watching over the factory my husband left behind and living with my granddaughter.